2018 meeting of the Alexander County Board of Education. Going to have a moment of silence. I'll ask you to remember a couple things. I think all of us have a lot on our minds this week, but remember 9/11. I hope none of us ever forget that day. And the hurricane, storm, it's going to be a big impact to a lot of people. Just remember, hopefully a lot of lives will be spared through this and things will come out as safe as possible. Also, Dr. Helton has had a death in her family this week. Remember her family. So let's just stop for a minute and have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to our Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to introduce our following students: Alyssa Jones, Avery Parsons, and Isaiah Warren are 7th grade students at East Alexander Middle School. Alicia Jones, the daughter of Denise and Greg Jones. Avery Parsons is the son of Jennifer and Daniel Parsons. And Isaiah Warren is the grandson of Catherine and Gary Huffman. If you guys will come forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Students, parents, thank y'all for coming tonight. Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda. There's one change. Dr. Alicia Clower will be presenting for Dr. Robert Helton due to the death in Dr. Helton's family tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Thank you, and that carries. We'll move on to our favorite time of honors and recognitions, and I'll call Dr. Jennifer Hefner up for that.
Thank you, Chairman Bowman and board members. Thank you, audience. Board member Sally Hardis, will you come up and help me with this presentation? As always, it is my pleasure to present the honors and recognition portion of the board meeting each month. Tonight, we're going to recognize our outstanding secondary mathematics teacher of the year, Lindsay Cox. The importance of mathematics instruction in our schools cannot be overestimated. To emphasize this reality, the North Carolina Council of Teachers of Mathematics and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction strive to recognize and reward secondary school teachers who exemplify mathematics teaching excellence by nurturing students' enthusiasm for mathematics throughout everyday classroom experiences. This recognition is for teachers who succeed in motivating students to excel in mathematics. Each school system selects one teacher to represent the best in mathematics teaching from the entire school system. The teacher selected receives a one-year membership in the NCCTM, recognition at the State Mathematics Conference, and a special memento of the occasion. The 2018 Secondary Mathematics Teacher of the Year for Alexander County is Lindsay Cox. She is a teacher at Alexander Central High School and is in her 15th year of teaching in Alexander County. All of that time has been spent at the high school. Ms. Cox is a graduate of Appalachian State University with a bachelor's degree and a master's in secondary mathematics education. She lives in the Sugarloaf community and is a member of Mount Hermon Baptist Church. She is a single mother of 5 children ranging in age from 2 to 15 years old, and that deserves an award in itself. 2 of those children are her biological children and 3 are foster children, so that makes what you do extra special. I want you to join me in congratulating our secondary mathematics teacher of the year, Lindsay Cox. Lindsay, you need to line up. Yeah, she likes it with the yes.
Congratulations.
Another round of applause.
Could someone check, is there any public comment? Anyone signed up for that? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to our consent agenda. Board members, you've had opportunity to review the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? And that carries. Thank you.
If you all want to slide out, you don't have to stay the whole time.
But you're welcome if you want
Oh,
some fun
certainly,
and
you can,
excitement.
you can.
All right, we're moving on to our reports. Our first report this evening is our audit, and I'll call Michael White to the podium.
Chairman Bowman, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, pleased to be here tonight to present the audit report to you. This is the audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2018. I think each of you hopefully have a bound set of statements in front of you. I'm going to go over some of the information this year. The main thing is on page 1 is the opinion report that we have issued on the actual financial statements, and pleased to report that that is a unmodified audit opinion, commonly referred to as a clean audit report. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give on a set of financial statements as your independent CPAs. That term unmodified means that we noted no items during the course of our audit that would cause us to modify the opinion, where we would say everything is in accordance with the accounting principles except for this modification. One thing I want to turn over to and look at this year is a fairly significant change, probably the largest change on the statements that any of y'all have ever seen on these statements. If you do take the time, look at Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, if you have that. And these are the two statements that I normally tell each of you that you really don't have to pay so much attention to, because it includes your fixed assets and all your debt, and you know you can't really sell off your fixed assets to fund the operations. These statements are more so important for counties and towns who may have bond issuances. But this year, you're required for the first time to record a liability for OPEB, other post-employment benefits, essentially the health insurance plan for the state. And y'all probably remember, several of y'all at least, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you had to record the liability for the retirement. And that was a relatively, in general, a relatively small adjustment. This OPEB adjustment is much, much larger on there. So what I wanted to show you is, and I hate that the type is so small, but we're required to do this by the state to fit everything on one page. If you look over on page 13, it's Exhibit 2. And what I'm looking at is the third line from the bottom. You're going to see a restatement. And what that is an adjustment for the prior year calculations of this liability. And on your governmental activities, it was about $70 million for the insurance plans, the OPEB. And on the business type, about $2.5 million for the insurance. In the end, it's going to leave y'all, if you look at these two statements, it's going to have a very large negative net position. The main thing I'm just going to tell all the boards, and this is the first one I went to this year on our school board audits, in the end, the monies to pay for this, for the vast majority of it, comes from the state, comes into you guys, and then y'all pay it back into the plan. Y'all don't have the fund balance to pay this. It's nothing that's going to come out of your fund balance at Alexander County Schools. But again, it is a reporting requirement that we have to show those liabilities. The true interesting thing on this, though, is this plan, the OPEB, is only 3% funded. Let's just say you've got a total liability of 100 million, and it's just way larger than that, but 100 million, it's funded at 3 million, so the unfunded portion is 97 million. In contrast, the retirement system is funded about 90%. So if you had a liability of 100, you've got funded of 90 million, and you're unfunded by 10 million. So it's just something, I talked to someone from the state auditor's office last week actually on this, and they said that the intent at the state was for this plan to always be on a pay-as-you-go basis. And essentially what that means is the contributions coming in this year for people goes to pay for the people who have already retired and receiving those benefits. And they've said that was always the plan, and it just had never been really brought to light by anyone. So just to let you know what all these numbers really relate to. In the end, though, from a common sense standpoint, I think y'all know, I think in 2021, any new employees are no longer going to receive the future health care benefits. I mean, anyone can tell you that that's because that is so underfunded at 3%, so they had to stop those benefits going forward. But in the end, it's not items that you're going to have to pay out of your fund balance, you know, at one point. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. But it does point out on a bigger picture to me is something to be more concerned at the state level of where they're funded on those items. Does anyone have questions on that? Because it is very, very different.
In 2021, you said 2021.
Yeah.
So if we're not collecting those funds, but we're paying it in the rears to people that we owe it to in retirement benefits, are we not going to be in trouble at that point?
I think what happens on this is just my opinion, and I tried to pin the guy down at the state auditors on that question. I'm guessing what's going to happen is whenever you pay the monies in, it's 17, 18% that you pay in. That is an overall retirement contribution for retirement, disability, and health care.
So health care is only a smaller portion of it.
A smaller portion. Who's to say that that percentage is going to drop?
Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but the point is, it's going to have to be funded one way or the other.
Wow.
But some people may spin it or try to say, well, the new employees are paying for people who are getting those benefits. It's really, truthfully, it's the employer that's paying, because all of these monies, this is not any money that comes out of an employee's paycheck. It's all this 18% that comes in from the employer standpoint. But we talked about that last year, you know, whenever those rates go up, sure, the state may fund those items on position allotments. The people paid out of dollar allotments, they're not funding that. That percentage still comes in on people pay with federal money. People pay with your local money, you're still paying those increases. So that's still sort of an unfunded mandate on those items as those percentages rise.
Okay.
But not to take too much time, but it clearly is something different. On your financial statements, the good thing is on the fund accounting, which is your instructional funds, your local funds, state, federal, those liabilities are not booked on it. So those statements still make sense and are useful. On Fund 5, your child nutrition program, because it's ran as a business and the rules are you have to record all potential liabilities for them, those statements essentially to me are useless now, because you're booking this OPEB and retirement, and those fluctuations are much larger each year than the fluctuations based on the operations. I mean, it's bad for me to sit here and tell you this as the auditor, but it's just so hard to read those statements. I tell everyone, and we'll go over that in a little bit, that you really just have to almost look at the cash balance on child nutrition to see if you gained cash or lost cash, to see how well you're doing, which maybe you should have been looking at it a little bit that way anyways in the past, because that's really lets you know where you're at. But one thing I do want to point out too is that's really more significant to you guys and something you can manage and probably do need to look at a little bit. On the general fund, I'm going to flip over to Exhibit 4 and look at your income statement for the general fund.
What page is that, Michael?
Page
16.
15.
Okay.
Or is it 16?
Actually, it is 50.
15 on the hard copy. I don't know what on the PDF what page number.
Oh, okay.
It
It's
would
not
be.
the same.
Nah.
It's, I believe, 17 on the hard copy. Would that be right?
Exhibit 4 starts on page 15 of
Yeah, 15
what's
on
on our.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. But what I'm looking at here, are you there, Ms. Forrest?
I see.
Okay. On the general fund, and I'm gonna look again at the very bottom, and you're gonna see the third line up, it's gonna show your change in fund balance. And this year we lost 970,000 out of 3.9 million roughly of fund balance, dropping us down to 2.9. It's bad when you get old and I can't read the numbers as well. But anyways,
Right
the
there
point
with you.
there is, I think you're all aware that, you know, the district built up the fund balance a little bit. We had all the ARA funds, and those funds have went away and been eating it down a little bit. We're getting close to the point where, you know, we can't continue on this pace of eating that fund balance down. So that's something that the board probably does need to look into. I think it already has for this upcoming year, but just to be aware of that going forward. The other thing is I was going to talk about is child nutrition. We always talk about that, and I've just told you the statements are somewhat useless, but I do want to focus in on the change in cash, and I'm looking at page 22. This is Exhibit 8 on the first page of that. The point is, you'll see that the child nutrition program lost about $100,000, $118,000 this year, but I think there's some actions going forward this next year that will hopefully eliminate that, because even with that $100,000 loss, it was still being subsidized by the general fund, $100,000 of transfers that came in from your local operating funds. So you would ideally like to get where you could add a little bit of cash and not have to take that much money from the general fund going forward. But does anybody have any questions on the numbers? I was going to get over into the compliance portion. Good. And I'm not going to go into detail, because I think we've all been here before and talked about the compliance reporting and whatnot. There's 3 reports that we do, one on the overall statements, one relating specifically to federal money, and one specifically to federal money. All 3 of those were the unmodified reports, the clean audit reports with no exceptions noted that we would be required to report for the board. So please report that. In addition, there's a separate letter. I'm not going to go over it in detail. It's a required communications letter. Mainly just standard items we're required to communicate to the governing board. The most important thing on that is, and I always tell you, is, you know, we look at the school's records, the different departments, obviously the accounting department heavily, and everyone is always open to us, and I feel like we have full access to the information, and we're given that information in a timely manner, and which is you know, very important from us from a standpoint of how we view the audit. So very appreciative of that assistance. But does anyone have any questions for me whatsoever? And if you look over and have questions later on, it's really, this OPEB stuff is sort of confusing. If you have questions on that, you know, feel free to give me a call and we can go over that. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael.
We'll have to look at this.
Okay, next up is our monthly school update, and Dr. Lisa Harrington from East Alexander Middle School will be updating her school tonight.
I'm going to attempt the clicker. Sometimes I get carried away. I'd like to thank you for letting me speak to you today about East Alexander Middle School. Was I convincing about that? I do like to brag on East, so I will take having to talk in front of people to do that. But we did meet growth. I know you know all about the data that we had from last year, but we did have grade level proficiency increases, and I forget y'all can see it there, in 6th grade reading and math, 7th grade math cohort scores, and 8th grade math, and CCR, which is what we focus on, or did focus on a lot, we increased across the board pretty much, except 7th grade reading, but we're working on that. Math 1, we had 100% proficiency, and science, we were at core with 83.7%. We are a model school with PBIS. That was one of our focus from last year, Mr. Lale did a great job of leading that committee and making sure, continuing what Ms. Triplett had done when she started working with PBIS when she was there. But if you look at the decline in across 3 years of office referrals, classroom referrals, bus referrals, ISS, and OSS. Now last year with OSS, we were up just a little bit from the year before, but overall in 3 years we're down. That from last year was a few incidences that involved a few students each, so we're gonna deal with it if it happens, and that's what happened. Focusing on CCR is going to fall right in line with the ESSA, the 10-year math goals, and the 10-year ELA goals. And some of those we're very close to. Some of them we're a little ahead already for our actual goals for
this past year. We don't have that data yet. I'm not sure, Dr. Hefner, if we know when we will get that information. I don't know. So as soon as we get that, we will compare. I do know that only the ones in bold are do we have subgroups in, like all students and Hispanic, white, I'm trying to follow my lines, economically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities. Those are the ones we'll focus on, but I felt like it was important that we look at the data for all the other subgroups too. And some of them are pretty low, and I'm just not okay with some of those numbers. But it's been a while, I think, since we focused on those subgroups. I'm kind of glad we're getting back to that so we can pay more attention to individual students. Oh, sorry. That was the ELA data too. We're just looking at the baseline. I don't know if y'all know much about those 10-year goals, if you've talked about those, but the baseline comes from 2015-16, and then the percent increase every year, it's different. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm sure it's based on some algorithm, but that's assigned to the groups, and then from there, for the next 10 years, the spreadsheet we have is huge, and it shows what we should go, how we should progress. The Teacher Working Conditions Survey, looking at 2016 and 2018. If you look at the very bottom, I'm so proud of that. The score is at 4.7 overall for the score. On through the rest of the slide, it talks about, these are only the ones that go along with that, some of our goals, like MTSS, reducing the number of office referrals, and taking care of discipline a different way besides just suspension. So managing student conduct is up 11.9%, and instructional practices and support is up 2.9% on average. So that was exciting for me. When we looked at it across all the middle schools and then across Alexander County schools, there's the data, but overall the score is up 9.7 over other North Carolina middle schools and up 3.4 from other Alexander County schools. So I think our people are kind of happy working there. If we are not happy all the time, we agree to disagree, but we do join together to take care of these kids. That our Falcon family, I can't brag on them enough. If it's not the kids, like today I watched a student hold the door for all the people going in and out. The students who led the pledge tonight, there's a special reason they're here, and I won't divulge all the details, but I will say that 2 of them took care of the third one when they were sitting by themselves at lunch. They got up from their tables and moved. That's what we are for. That's what we're about, just teaching students how to be good people and take care of each other. And this is my real Falcon family. I tried to get everybody on there. I think Mr. Robinette, I do not have on there. He was not there today, and I couldn't grab his picture at the last minute. But if you look, kind of blended in with all that is hashtag WIT. And that's what we focused on last year, and we're going to focus on that again, and it's just do whatever it takes for our students. So sometimes they see that in newsletters, sometimes they see that just stuck throughout the building, but just to remind us what we're about, we do whatever it takes. And that is the end of my presentation. I know I'm standing between you and several more things. So, I do want to mention on the discipline, one thing I think made a big difference was using ABE, which is a program that our teachers can go into, and all of them can enter levels regardless of where something happens in the building. But for next year, we're going to look at Teacher Handbook. It interfaces with PowerSchool. So I'm hoping that that'll be a little bit more, I don't know, teacher-friendly and administrator-friendly, so we don't have to enter things 2 times. It'll all be just in PowerSchool, and it should, or vice versa. But we'll see what that brings. Any questions? No. Okay.
Great.
That's
Have a
good.
good
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
We will.
Thank you.
Now for our monthly superintendent's report, Dr. Jennifer Hefner.
Board members, you have this report attached in your agenda, and I have a variety of items, 9 different things to talk about tonight. The first is, it's hard to believe it's been 17 years since the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Like many of you, I can tell you exactly where I was when I heard about the first plane crashing into the tower. I was sitting in my office at Bethlehem Elementary School, and as the day played out, I remember my role as principal becoming one where I worked hard to calm the fears of the staff, students, and their parents. Everyone was afraid of the uncertainty of what might happen next. A lot has changed in the past 17 years when it comes to our nation and school safety. Renee Mead has been working on a couple of press releases to explain some of the measures that we've taken recently to increase safety at all of our schools. The state superintendent has declared September as School Safety Month. We are diligently working to increase school safety measures and mental health supports in our schools and have recently been awarded 2 grants. One is for a resource officer to be shared between Hidnight and Stony Point Elementary Schools, and one was for an additional counselor and social worker to serve students within the school system. I know our administrators and teachers work tirelessly to provide safe environments for our students. I also know our safety team works hard to be as prepared as possible in the event of a school crisis. I thank our community agencies, the county commissioners, and our Board of Education for making student safety a top priority in Alexander County. Bullet number 2. As of today, I've scheduled a day to visit both the Student Success Center and Alexander Early College. I would ask that you mark your calendar for Friday, September 28th. We will meet at the Student Success Center for a building tour and then travel to the Early College for tour and lunch. Number 3, the 2018 Fall District Meeting for the North Carolina School Board Association is scheduled for September 26th in Wilkes County at the Stone Center. Please let me know if you would like to attend by tomorrow afternoon so we can work on registrations and travel arrangements. Since the meeting is so close this year and it begins at 4 o'clock, we'll plan to leave the central office around 3:15 that day. Bullet number 4, a date has not been set for our thank you reception. For the past 2 years, we've held this special event during the month of October. However, I plan to seek input from the principals during our monthly meeting next week to get suggestions as to how we might increase attendance at this celebration. And if you recall, this is to recognize our community partners. Do any of you have suggestions as a board as to how we might increase attendance at that event? Nothing like putting you on the spot.
We'll think about it.
But I am going to ask the
Put some thought
principals
into it.
next week, just because we have a lot of community partners, but for whatever reason, it has not been as well attended as I had hoped for the past 2 years. So more to come with that, and please give me your suggestions. Bullet number 5, yesterday was the 10th day of school, and our number of enrollment totaled 4,791. This number does not include our preschool students. When compared to last year's number on the same day, we have 102 fewer students in the school system. Some of our schools have experienced big gains, such as West Alexander Middle School. They have increased by 48 students, but others have had big losses. The state will monitor our numbers through the second 20-day period, and I will know more about how much money we will likely have to revert back based on our original allotment that was based on an enrollment of 4,960. So if we took the number on day 10 of school, that's 169 fewer than we were projected to have. But again, it doesn't count on day 10. They'll look at 2 20-day periods and take the better of those 2 20-day periods. Item number 6, the North Carolina School Board Association Annual Conference for Board Member Development is scheduled for November 12th, 13th, and 14th at the Sheraton Four Seasons in Greensboro. Please consider attending this conference and let me know if you're interested in going just as soon as possible. Deborah's going to work on registrations and room reservations in the upcoming week. I shared the student contest information with principals yesterday and am hopeful that we will have some student entries for posters and the video contest. And I just put in red on these notes that please note the monthly board meeting for November will be held on Monday, November 5th, due to this conference and the election scheduled for that Tuesday, the 6th. Number 7, I have given you employee identification cards, and each of you should have received 2 cards that can be used for all home ball games. Number 8, we are continuing to monitor Hurricane Florence and have been in contact with Emergency Services Director Russell Green a couple of times already. He has invited me to attend a meeting being held at 9:15 in the morning to discuss this issue. And just a note, at the school level, we are working very, very hard to make sure that we have updated contact numbers in our automated call system. You know that we've been in school, today's 11 days, and it's hard to get that information entered in, but we're going to do our very best to have it as close as possible by Friday. Dr. Clower provided guidance to school administrators with some directives for hurricane preparedness. She did that late this afternoon. I thank her for doing that, but we'll just watch and see how things play out, and certainly hope for the best. And then number 9, I wanted to let you all know that Dr. Curry had surgery this morning. Things went well. I received my last text from her husband around 5 this afternoon, and she was up and walking. She hopes to be back at work in a couple of weeks. Also, our new director of testing and accountability also had an unexpected delay in starting her position. She has also had a medical issue. And so we're going to be down 2 administrators at the central office for the next several weeks. And I would just ask for everyone's patience as we work to get everything covered and make sure that we don't drop any of the balls that we always have to keep in the air. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank
you.
you.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business, and I'll call Ms. Sharon McAfee to the podium for the second reading of proposed policies.
We brought 10 policies for first reading last month, and they are up for second reading. I have not received any comment on 9 of those policies. We have done some revisions to the drug-free and alcohol-free workplace, so we'll bring that back for a third reading next month. But I would ask that you approve the other 9 policies on second reading.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the second reading of these policy revisions, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Thank you, that carries. Mrs. Happy, you can continue with new business.
We have 6 policies in the 8,000 and 9,000 series, and this will have gotten us through another whole policy revision when we approve these. So I will be bringing these back next month for second reading.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will call Dr. Alicia Clower to the podium for the federal programs review.
Good evening. I feel like I should bring my mouse with me while I'm up here, but I left it back there, so if we need to change anything, maybe they'll help us out. All right, so I'm reporting out for Robin Helton tonight on federal programs, and you have some handouts in your packets on that. First, I'm going to explain to you about Title I program and what that is. It's the largest federal education program that we have. And it's based from the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that was reauthorized in 2002 as part of the No Child Left Behind Act. And then it's been amended as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, or the ESEA. The purpose of Title I is to make sure that all children have the opportunity to have a high-quality education. It provides federal funding to schools to help students who are low achieving at the most and are the most risk for falling behind in their academics. The program serves millions of children in our schools, and most school districts do participate in that. We have about half of our North Carolina schools receive Title I funding across the state, and it also serves children who attend parochial and private schools as well. So for the 2018-19 school year, all 7 of our elementary schools will receive Title I funding or Title I assistance. Bethlehem is the only school that's considered a targeted assistance school, and all the other one are full school-wide Title I schools. Now what that means is that to be a full school-wide Title I school, you have to have 40% or greater free and reduced lunch percentage. So Bethlehem is a targeted assistance, which means they get some money for the end of the Title I funds, but they have to target it just for the children who are at risk for falling behind and use those funding opportunities to buy, purchase, products, equipment, tutors, things like that for those specific students. It's not all students within the school, okay? Let's see here. I just said that. So that's our Title I funding. Currently, Title I funding, what we've budgeted for is we'll be paying for a social worker, a part-time ESL translator, supplements for our coaches, substitutes, professional development, supplies, parent involvement. There's a parent involvement component in all Title I funding that's a requirement to try to increase that parent involvement, which is correlated to higher student achievement. So that piece is really good to have in there. Also looking at foster care transportation and some in our homeless allotment. So those are our Title I funds. Next, I'll tell you about Title II, which is improving teacher quality and increasing the number of highly qualified teachers that we have in the classrooms. And this is authorized through the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. It increases basically our flexibility and increases the accountability for how those funds are spent. We are developing and implementing initiatives that will assist in recruiting highly qualified teachers. And as we just heard from our audit, some of the benefits the teachers will get are going to make it more difficult for us to recruit. So keep that in mind in the coming years as we try to recruit and retain teachers as well. It also is going to help us to provide professional development activities, which is a part of that retention for teachers. We have to help keep them trained so that they can deliver appropriate instruction. It'll give us professional development money for principals as well, paraprofessionals, and we'll be looking at their specific content areas and needs. Right now, some of our budget for Title II is coming in as stipends for our beginning teachers. They're mentors. They're spending extra time inside and outside the classroom mentoring beginning teachers. School allotments that we're giving each school for professional development. We're one teacher and professional development, again, school for the district. So that's what our Title II funds are budgeted for at this time. All right, Title III is for language acquisition, or LEP stands for Limited English Proficient, so I'll be using that as I'm talking. Those funds are provided to support various ways for our students who are identified as LEP. We currently have 106 LEP students identified in our district. And so the funds that we are allotting in that category are going to go towards teacher assistant, workshop expenses, supplies and materials, and computer equipment, and more specifically, iPad licenses. I've not seen LEP instruction in this district yet, well, since I was here the first time, but from what I saw in the district where I was before, the iPads are really a crucial component to that LEP instruction. It really assists. So when I saw this on the budget, I'm glad to see that we're using iPads in those classrooms. All right, so that's Title III. Let's look at Title IV. Title IV is for student support and academic achievement. It's used to develop relationship building skills and help improve safety through the recognition and prevention of coercion, violence, or abuse. It's also used to establish community partnerships. So currently, our Title IV money is being used for an ESL teacher and looking at the SRO in the grant funding that we just talked about earlier that we're hoping to be able to split within the community. Let's see, some of that grant funding will serve the early college and the Student Success Center. So those are the 4 federal programs that I wanted to share with you. Do you have any questions about any of that?
I just want to ask one question, just for clarification,
Sure.
mostly for for the record, I think I know the answer, but when
Okay.
you said that some of the Title I money was used for coaches, that would be instructional coaches?
Instructional, yes, ma'am. Instructional coaches. I should have said that.
Sorry.
That's exactly what it's for. It's
I
not for
just-
sports.
I just know how people might
Exactly.
think that it was used for other coaches.
Thank you, yeah,
athletic
thank you for
coaches.
that clarification.
And the two additional attachments in your agenda, that's actually a breakdown of the Title I funds, and there's a page on there that will show you how much each school has been allocated.
Thank you.
Is that it? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I think we need approval on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, board members, is there a motion and a second to approve the federal funds?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any noes? Thank you, and that carries. Okay, I think that wraps us up. In accordance to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, the board will now enter closed session to discuss personnel. Thank everyone for coming, and have a great week, and a safe week.
I'm gonna move to. Okay.
Yeah, so we need a motion to go into closed
So
session.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Thank you.
You're welcome.